welcome you to this platform. This is God's Anatomy for Marriage. And this is one of our arms, the Grief and Loss Family. And this is a support group that provides personal support for those who have experienced loss. We have a monthly session uh, this on the first Thursday of every month. We have a WhatsApp group that provides support. And Sister Judy, as was prayed for, she coordinates and she provides that kind of support for all those who will come. And so we want to welcome you, especially to today. It is a very special program. It's always special, but I want to assure you that the presentation that we have today will be very enriching. Just speaking to the presenter uh, some time ago in discussing the program, the content, and I was intrigued by this aspect of disenfranchised grief. And I know that between the charisma of the presenter and the topic, I know that you will receive much content today. You'll be impacted today by our session. And so, to introduce our presenter today, I am going to hand over to Sister Judy, who is the coordinator for our grief and loss family. Welcome, my sister. Good to see you.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our Grief and Loss support group session, our monthly meeting. As Reverend Ruth just described, this is our monthly meeting. Tonight we have our guest is Dr. Royette Wiliams-James. She is an accomplished mental health professional, educator, researcher, and international professional development trainer with expertise in trauma, grief, emotional intelligence, cognitive behavioral coaching, addiction with a specialized focus on sexual addiction, and self-esteem development. She holds a PhD in Christian addiction counseling and a Master of Education in International Teaching, and is currently pursuing a second PhD in education with a research focus on how school staff and institutions respond to non-suicidal self-injury among students in Trinidad and Tobago and Guyana. Her research interests center on school mental health preparedness, trauma responsive systems, and educator capacity building in Caribbean contexts. Dr. Wiliams-James is a certified trauma and resilience trainer in early childhood education, a certified grief counselor, and a professional workshop facilitator. She has delivered training and keynote presentations across Trinidad and Tobago and the wider Caribbean, including Dominica and Anguilla, working with educators, NGOs, faith-based organizations, and frontline professionals. She is the director of the NGO, A Balanced Mind, and the author of multiple publications, including a primary to secondary school transition workbook, a poetry anthology, and an ebook on effective time management. Through her evidence-based and culturally responsive approach, Dr. Wiliams-James is committed to advancing mental health awareness, educator readiness, and holistic well-being across educational and community systems. Tonight, we welcome Dr. Wiliams-James to our platform as she shares on the topic, Disenfranchised Grief. So tonight, let's welcome Dr. Royette Wiliams-James. Welcome.
Hi. Good evening,
Hello.
everyone. Hi, Miss Judy.
Hello, my dear.
I have to say thanks to Your Highness. I call her Your Highness because she is indeed great. So, Miss Lawrence, thank you for the invitation. And I do hope that we're gonna have a good session. But most importantly, you're gonna get the information You're gonna learn something tonight. It might be, the terms might be something different, but it's grief, yeah? And I applaud Miss Ruth again for having such an initiative, because I could tell you, man, I'm not sure what side of the globe you are, but oh my goodness, in Trinidad and Tobago, woo, the grief is just, the losses, I should say, it's overwhelming. And I'm quite sure whichever jurisdiction, we also have those kinds of issues. Yeah, between last week and this week, I lost 4 friends back to back to back. It's like you get a call, one gone, and then you understand, and you cannot even recover from one loss. You get a next one time. So we had to ensure that we're strong, and we try to keep the faith, because it's a lot. It's a lot. And I'm a trauma-based person, so I mean, losses are traumatic to people. Yeah, right. So we're looking at a type of grief, and I'm quite sure in your deliberation in the group over time, you guys would have covered other types of grief. You guys would have had a foundation of what grief is. So there are many losses that will fall under the type of grief we're going to discuss this evening. So we're looking at disenfranchised grief, the losses we suffer in silence. And by the time I'm finished with the end of this presentation, you're going to understand that phrase there, the losses we suffer in silence. One of the things that I do whenever I do my sessions, and I do a lot, I'm always on a Zoom. One of the things I do, I always start my presentation with a quotation. So the quote of the session is, "Just because your grief was not recognized does not mean it was not real." And that is part and parcel of what disenfranchised is. Our grief, or the losses that we encounter, many of them are not sanctioned by society. Society deems them as being insignificant. So that's what the phrase is telling you. It doesn't matter what your loss is to you. You will respond in a specific way, because that loss mattered to you. So a lot of us, we have those misconceptions that based on the type of loss, we should not pay attention to it. We should not acknowledge it. We should not worry about it. We just keep moving. And that is not right. And a lot of us, we say utterances in grief language, we call them grief cliches. It's the Lord's will. And that person is in a better place. And that person was no good. Why are you even worrying about them? Why are you even crying? You shouldn't cry. We hear those kinds of utterances, yes? So even though society does not sanction your loss, it doesn't by no way means that your grief is not real. Miss Ruth sent you a flyer, as she always does. She sent you this flyer, and you saw this flyer written, "Disenfranchised Grief." When you saw this flyer, What was the first thing? Drop it in the chat quick. What was the first thing that came to your mind? A lot of people feel pain. They go through these losses without having the language. They just know that they are grieving. They just know that a loss would have occurred and they're feeling something. They are sad. They are angry. They might feel betrayed. They might be overwhelmed. They might go down, we call it a rabbit hole. That is when you hit depression. So they might be in that frame there. So many people feel pain when they lose a loved one, an animal. It doesn't matter. But one of the things I need to tell you is understanding what things are, or the jargon of grief, is very, very important, because you are able to build a relationship with the words based on your understanding of the term. All right? And being able to name or put a name to your grief, or a name to your loss, or a name to anything. It is easier to talk about it. So by way of definition, here's a simple definition for you. By way of definition, disenfranchised grief is grief that is not openly acknowledged, socially supported, and fully validated. Yes? It's grief that is deemed insignificant to those around you. So persons who would have encountered a loss that was not sanctioned or acknowledged or validated or supported socially, they will hear things like, why are you grieving so long? You should be over this by now. Or that doesn't really count, you know. So the poor little child, you bought home this goldfish for your little grandchild, and because your house is so hot, you don't have a pump in your aquarium, the goldfish didn't last a few hours. So poor little Timmy, seeing the goldfish at the top of the water, lifeless, and you telling little Timmy, oh God, little Timmy, what you crying for? Is a goldfish, I'll buy you a next one. Or we could go to the aquarium and get the next one tomorrow. But what you're not understanding is little Timmy would have formed a connection with this one. So you trying to downplay how little Timmy is feeling towards his goldfish is going to bring little Timmy more hurt and pain, because you are not validating little Timmy's feelings. And if it's one thing people, you see the word validation, I love that word. It's two words I love, and I use it all the time: empathy and validation. Little Timmy should know that it is okay. Mommy, you suffered a miscarriage. 1 month, 2 months, you lost a baby. Your friend will tell you, but I'm quite sure it was a mass of blood. I'm quite sure there was no limbs formed. you are not validating your friends, or your friend is not validating that loss because why? To them, it is insignificant. The fetus was not, 100 yet. So to them, it doesn't count. And what makes this enfranchise really bad is how we perceive that loss. That is the problem. And it is one of those we really need to pay attention to, because the effects or the impact is overwhelming for some. Others could navigate and keep moving. But some persons don't ever get over it. It lingers because they cannot grieve outwardly. Yes, we come into that. So remember, when we talk in disenfranchised grief, we're talking that your loss was not acknowledged or supported socially or validated. Common forms. I would have mentioned some already. Common forms. Divorce, separation, an estranged wife, estranged husband, miscarriage, infertility, stillbirth, death by suicide. Hello. Let me tell you all something. Suicide grief, oh my goodness. Ooh. So for suicide grief, it's a double whammy, especially for the bereaved, those who were left to deal with the death of a loved one by suicide. You have a lot of guilt and shame and embarrassment, yes. So society looks at suicide, death by suicide or suicide grief as very much insignificant. Yes? Another one, you see why I put violence there? Gang violence. So you have let me explain. You have a family member who is involved in a gang, or who in Trinidad we call them a pest. You might have different terms for them in your jurisdiction, but are no good. Robbing people, making people life a living hell. And that person maybe was killed by another gang member from another gang, or by the police. And you, the utterances made to you about your family member who was in a gang or who was the pest in the community. You cannot even go to you don't even want to go to the funeral because it's an embarrassment and shame. You cannot even have, that family member cannot even have a good farewell because of how society is looking at him or her. And this is the issue we have with those types of losses. When we are unable to seek any kind of closure because of the impact that loss is going to have or is having based on what society is saying. So I feel it a lot. I work in the school system in Trinidad, and I feel it a lot for some of my students who may have a brother who in a gang, an uncle, a father. I feel it for them Because sometimes they will come and see me and say, Miss, you know, I couldn't even go to the funeral, Miss, because of what people in the community saying, Miss. And I don't want to be, you know, our family don't want to be too much aligned now, Miss. Because chances are, depending on how that person lost their life, they might end up coming for other family members just because of you showing up in the funeral. You know, so we had to pay these things, we had to pay attention to. Grieving someone who caused you harm, loss of identity. So you lose your health, you lose a limb. So we have a type of grief called anticipatory grief. I'm quite sure you all did that already. With cancer and stuff, yes. So when you can't even, or people can't even recognize you because of the changes that the ailment might bring, yes, that is a form of disenfranchised grief. Grieving someone who is still alive. So someone who is addicted to alcohol or cocaine, someone who is in prison, someone who has Alzheimer's or dementia. All these on your screen are common forms of disenfranchised. Some of us might not even know and say, oh my God, that is a loss. Yes, it is. Loss of a career, that's a loss. You might have to change career midstream. A dream. You dream of buying a house in Westmoreland or a villa in some, you understand? Or maybe traveling the world. Yes? Or maybe getting married at a certain age and having your child. You understand? Yes. These are losses that's not supported socially by persons in our circles. And the reason I am ensuring that you understand and you know, and you could actually name it or identify the loss and where it falls. Because once you are able to do that, you put yourself in a position where you are better able to treat with the loss. Because a lot of these here on the screen, if not all of them, they often go unseen. You hear me? Now, the question is, why does disenfranchised grief hurt so much? What makes it bad, makes it worse, makes it hurtful, makes it overwhelming for some people? Check the equation on your screen. Loss plus isolation plus silence. What do I mean by that? Now, when we hide grief, when we don't validate grief or validate the loss, when we dismiss it as being significant to our loved ones and our friends, it doesn't disappear, does it? It doesn't go away. It remains there. But what happens? It goes underground. It goes down into our subconscious mind. And we feel what? Isolated and alone because people are not understanding our loss. People are not understanding that even though the man harmed me, I still have a connection to him. Even though the man used to beat me, I still have a connection to him. So I will still miss him. I go still cry. You hear me? And that is what some people don't understand. And because of that, we isolate ourselves and we suffer in silence. Because our loss, our grief becomes heavy. The emotional impact is through the roof. So we have different types of emotion that even makes it worse. Because coupled with the sadness, what we have? We have shame. Remember we talked suicide? Suicide is shame, you know. We have guilt. We have confusion. What again we have? We have what? Betrayal. What again we have? Loneliness. And we're going through all these emotions. And it is creating physical issues for us. Some of us will not function. The loss is disenfranchised and our grief becomes heavy. And because our grief becomes heavy, the emotions riding on it is going to be overwhelming and our body is going to respond. Our body might respond so bad and so much. In my country, we say something, lakuzo. That's patois. You know what is lakuzo? Lakuzo is the boneyard. There is something called a broken heart and we laugh. She died of a broken heart and we kick with that and we laugh at that. You know that's a real thing, right? You know a broken heart is a real thing, right? Oh yes, go and research it. Go and read up of a broken heart. Your heart is starving of oxygen. Why? Because blood, your body is not making enough blood. Or there's restrictions in the movement of blood through your heart. Because of how your body is responding to that loss. So you're exhausted, you're emotionally numb, your chest tightening. My goodness. There is a phrase. Remember that phrase? The body remembers what the world told you not to say. The body remembers what the world told you not to say. Remember that. And that is what happens to a lot of us when we encounter losses like this. So disenfranchised grief hurts a lot. Because that loss, because it was deemed insignificant and it is not acknowledged, We become isolated because we cannot grieve or we cannot express our grief openly. We are afraid. We tiptoe in around the loss. We cannot even attend the funeral, so there's no closure. We cannot talk about it, so there's no closure. And we remain in silence. We suffer in silence. Yeah? We suffer in silence. So I want you to remember that. So when you are making utterances, be mindful of those cliches. It could have been worse. I don't think you should be holding on to that. The man is a mess. He's a pest. God take him. Remember those utterances. We call them cliches. So have a little, before we go on to what we could do, have a little reflection activity. I like people to reflect. If it's one thing that is good for the soul, it's self-reflection. So we know from the 2-3 slides, you should have already got it in your mind that understanding this type of grief, how important it is. Because I've got to be mindful that there are certain losses that we don't pay mind to, but to the person who is experiencing the loss, they are responding because they are impacted. You hear me? So you need to understand the severity of that type of grief. And you need to reflect on certain aspects of your life that would have maybe fell under the topic being discussed. So I need you could do what you want. You could write, you could sit down and just make your mind stray a little bit. But I need you to reflect on a loss that you never felt that they allow you to talk about it. So maybe it was a miscarriage. Maybe it was the dog. Someone said a family member lost a pet. Maybe the cat ran away. Years now, up to now, you always holding up, leaving the door open. Maybe the cat will walk back up the stairs. Maybe an uncle who was involved in criminal activity. He gone Colombia and put on a walk and he ain't gone back. Think of a loss. Reflect on a loss I've never felt allowed to talk about. Or you've never felt allowed to talk about. I also want you to reflect on what made your grief feel invisible. Was it what people were saying? Was it you were confused whether it was a loss or not? Or I'm supposed to grieve this or not? Or society saying, like COVID-19. Oh, I even forget COVID-19. COVID-19 was a disenfranchised grief, you know. You couldn't dare tell somebody, a family member had COVID-19. Me and they don't even want to talk to you for the phone. Because they're afraid COVID passed for the phone. COVID-19 was a good example too. And what I needed then, but I didn't receive. I needed support. I needed somebody to check in. I needed somebody to call. I needed somebody to validate, tell me it is okay, Royette. Miss Judy, it is okay. Pat, it is okay. I just needed somebody to be there. I needed somebody to stand in the gap. So I want your mind to, I want you to go in within yourself and remember, we started the class by naming your loss. If it fell under disenfranchised grief, and you maybe, as I sit and speaking to you, maybe not realize, but wait, that was a loss. And I didn't realize it was a loss. I didn't get the support from nobody. So if you're crying, it's okay to cry, if it hurts in you, it's okay. It is okay. It is okay. It is okay. Don't make nobody tell you that it is not okay. Ma'am, sir, it is okay. Yes? So there's a reflection. And these are things we need to do. See, reflection. You see tomorrow is Friday? By Friday evening, you're supposed to sit on your porch or in your car you're driving home. Reflect on the week. Yesterday I was on my toes. It's from 1 to the, I like Miss Roof, we don't rest. We always on the go. You know what I mean? And I get up in the morning, I do a session for some principles about emotional intelligence. And as I come off the Zoom, my boss called me. I wonder what the woman calling me for. I off. That's my day off yesterday. I take a day off to do a conference. I see this woman. I say, but wait, why is she calling me? So let me answer. She, right, what are you doing? I say, well, I'm on my day off. She say, oh my goodness. I'm sorry for calling your phone on your day off, but I need some help. I say, what you need, lady? She say, they now shot someone outside the gates of a school. How soon you could reach? I say, well, miss, you're very lucky because I now came off a Zoom and I was dressed. I mean, full. I did the, sometimes with a Zoom, you have only the top and no bottom. I was fully dressed, shirt in pants, and the only thing I didn't have was my shoes. But I was decked down, belt up and everything, long sleeve and thing, dressed to the nines, and I say, lady, it's up Bonnie, I live in Eldo. If the traffic is all right, I'm reaching up in less than 10. Tell the principal I'm coming now. And I grab my keys, my bag, lock my door, and I go up the road. Apparently, the young man was in a gang. He was working in the school. He just left the school to go wherever. I think he maybe went to smoke in the back, and they pass and pick him up. So we have to deal with that. It's a lot of things, all you. There's a lot happening. And we have to be mindful. A lot of people out here, they're grieving. A lot of people. You might be strong like me. You understand? You might be strong like me. But there are others that are not strong at all. They can't make. And that is where you come in. You hear me? That is where you come in. People, healing does not mean making your grief acceptable to others. So while you are reflecting, I want you to remember this. Healing does not mean making your grief acceptable to others. You know what it means? It means finding ways to care for yourself. That is what it means. So I have 9 ways you could treat with, manage, support someone who would have encountered a loss that fit under disenfranchised. Yes? So when we talk in healing, healing is not about erasing the grief, no. You can't erase it. It is putting the person in a better position to treat with that grief they are going through. So remember when I think it was the second that I said, it is important to know the jargon. So the first thing, how we are going to treat with those kinds of losses that fall under disenfranchised. So the first thing, name your loss. Even if the noise, and the noise I mean what society is saying, what the family is saying, what the neighbors saying, that's the noise. Name your loss. Remember, disenfranchised grief often hurts terribly. It's overwhelming to people. Why? Because it was never named. You can't put a name on it. Why? Because it is insignificant. Why are you naming something? Why are you giving something a name that of no significance to you? Say it aloud. Say it to yourself. Because why? It is a real loss. Write it down. Pray. Whisper. My brother was a pest, but he was my brother. My brother hurt so many people, but he was my brother. My husband put me through hell, but he gave me a child. He gave me a daughter. And we had some good times. When you put a name to your loss, you reduce the confusion and the shame. Name it. Say it aloud. Do not allow anybody to dismiss it. That's one. Number 2, release the need for permission. People, why you have to get approval from society or from your family members to grieve? Why? Grief is not a competition, Olia. Grief is not a competition, and a time limit does not apply. Do not allow people to tell you, you still hanging on to your husband, girl? The man gone anyway so long. Why are you still grieving the man for? There is no timeline. Some of the literature might tell you what? A 6 months normal grief. That's what the literature will tell you. Some literature, 6 months to a year. And then it might become complicated. And then you can't come out from the hole you in. So you might have to, when you go by the psychiatrist, because you go by a doctor, nothing medically wrong with you. So you see, the doctor might say, here, what? Something emotionally is wrong with you. You go on by a psychiatrist or a clinical therapist and they diagnose you with what? PGD. You know what that is? Prolonged grief disorder. Go and research it. You know, do you know that you could be diagnosed with a mental health condition known as prolonged grief disorder? Yes, you can. It was placed in the DSM. Well, for those who don't know what the DSM is, that is the Bible of mental health. So there's a manual that has all the mental health illnesses, mental health disorders, based on criteria, duration, severity, etc. And a couple of years ago, I think 2 years ago, 2023, they placed prolonged grief disorder in the DSM. The DSM is the Diagnostic Statistical Manual. Your Highness will handle you all with that after I have exit. And in time to come, yeah. She might just go and pull it up and you guys could have a little discussion on that. That's how bad grief is. When you are not managing properly. You hear me? So, relinquish the need for having people give you permission to grieve. The grief is yours. The loss is yours. Your grief is valid, even though people don't understand it. They don't understand why you're grieving, but it's yours. It's not somebody else's own, so you need no permission. Find one safe witness. The whole marish and the parish doesn't have to have access to your grief. You just need one person, one trusting person, one person who will listen to you, one person who will not minimize, one person who will allow you to speak, one person who will just sit down there and be silent and let you dump. That's all you need. And if you can't get one person to do that for you, you do it yourself. You journal. You join a support group like Miss Groove and her crew. You seek therapy, faith spaces, church. You do art, music, movement, gardening, and the whole list. I'm quite sure Miss Ruth has given you every time all you come together on a Thursday and talk about loss. Miss Ruth coming up with something that you could do to deal with your grief. You hear me? One safe witness. Create your own rituals because society minimizes your loss. It's obvious they are not going to offer you anything. Society will not offer you any rituals. So if they don't offer you anything, you create your own. Light a candle. So every time is the anniversary or the birthday of that loved one who was taken away from you and so that society deemed unnecessary. Write a goodbye letter. Don't send it now. Don't send it, but relinquish your thoughts, your feelings and emotion in that letter. Basic things. Plant something. A prayer. Write a prayer in the name of the person. You know what rituals does? Rituals gives grief a container. That's what it does. That's something to hold. Number 5, expect mixed emotions and allow them. Remember, we listed already some of the emotions that you will go through because of those types of losses. It could be relief, it could be love, it could be anger, it could be sadness. It could be even happiness. Because the pests. Oh God, I love my brother. But oh God, let God take him. Because it's just too much. It's too much, it's too much. He's causing people distress. And he's bringing name and shame. He's bringing shame on the family's name. He's bringing the company into disrepute. So expect mixed emotion and say it is okay. It is okay. Mixed emotion doesn't mean you are doing grief wrong, you know. It means that you are understanding the complexities of that relationship that you have with that person. Yeah? Listen to your body. People, when grief is hidden, it shows up physically. There is something called your body keeps a score. Learn that. It will show up somehow. If it does not show up emotionally, it's going to show up physically. Exhaustion, headaches. So you have a lot of somatic complaints, diarrhea, belly aches, tightening of the chest, tightening of the throat. You're numb. You have waves of emotion, guilt. You have problems. Your body feels very hot at times, very warm, or sometimes very cold. You say you menopause, you haven't reached there yet. You slow down. You understand? Your body grieves what words does not allow you to express. So many of the time it shows up physically instead of emotionally. So listen to your body. Listen to your body. Challenge the shame that you feel with compassion. Offer yourself kindness. Offer yourself grace. Yes, you are ashamed of your brother, but give yourself some grace. You didn't make your brother do what he's doing, you know. You understand? Tell yourself, I did the best that I could because you used to talk to this boy over and over again. So, bro, do not get into this kind of life, bro. So give yourself grace. Let grief change shape, not disappear. All right? Remember what we said. Healing does not mean forgetting, does it? Healing means what? Your grief is minimized. Healing gives you more what? Space to breathe. Healing allows for few moments of what? Isolation. Remember, we said one of the reasons disenfranchised grief is so bad is because we isolate ourselves and we suffer in silence because our grief remains hidden. It goes right down straight into our subconscious mind. But when you're healing from this, you allow it to take shape and not just disappear. Because why? You are working through it. And give yourself time without a deadline. Disenfranchised grief will delay your grief. It will allow your grief to be silenced. It will allow your grief not to be supported. But there is nothing called late or too late because there is no timeline. There is no timeline. If you want to grieve today, grieve today. If you want to grieve next year, grieve next year. If you want to grieve for the next 20 years, that's your business. But just do not allow it to prevent you from having a life. Yes? So these are the 9 ways that you could heal from this. Why? I want you to remember. Grief that was unseen still deserves care. Even though nobody saw, even though nobody validates, even though nobody understands, you still deserve care, love, and support. Grief that was silent still deserves healing. And you deserve compassion for carrying that grief. I do hope that something that I would have said resonated with you. I do hope you have a little clearer understanding of what disenfranchised grief is.
Thank you very, very much. That was quite enlightening to me. I have heard of the term a couple of years ago, but never really delved into what it all encompasses. And this was, for me, this was quite an eye-opener. Dr. Royette, I think I speak on behalf of everyone that this was pretty amazing. For those of us who've never heard of disenfranchised grief, it was easy to understand, and easy to think. It caused me to think more clearly, or think more clearly about what I'm thinking when someone says they've lost this or that or the other, and also patience with people with
Empathy.
these. Yes, empathize, and
Yeah. Put yourself in the shoes, yeah.
have more patience with people as they go through the the different types of grief.
Yeah. Yep.
And so we appreciate your clarity, your candor, your freedom in which you spoke. We really appreciate it, and we just want to say a great big thank you